What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So, Nick, Jon Jones has re-entered the USADA testing
That
pool.
didn't take long.
It almost seems like a joke, right? Like,
Yeah.
He was retired for a couple weeks. Now he's entered the pool, but he's kind of still retired. I want to make this video about heavyweight. What the hell is going on at heavyweight? It's a disaster division right now, and it's a shame because there's actually enough juice in that division. Now you have to look outside the UFC, and I'm of course talking about Francis Ngannou,
Right.
Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones, potentially Alex Pereira. There are some really fun matchups that can happen. Unfortunately, I don't know how that's going to happen and what order it's going to happen in. You know, the White House thing seemed to entice Jon, the announcement that there's going to be a fight on the White House lawn next year. But I don't think location alone is enough to get Jon out of bed. I mean, Jon's fought Madison Square Garden. He's fought the Vegas multiple times. Like, all the big arenas in fighting, Jon's pretty much fought them all. The White House is great. It's very cool. That's something that almost every fighter on the UFC will be pushing to get on that card.
Right.
But I don't think that alone is enough to bring somebody of Jon's magnitude back. So to me, for him to re-enter the testing pool, I just feel like he doesn't think he's really done yet.
No.
And he does respond to a lot of these comments with people saying, you're ducking Tom, you're this, you're that. When you see somebody with the accolades that Jon has, the following, the money, everything, on Instagram, literally firing off comments like he's Gordon Ryan, you know, to people. Even though he says it doesn't affect him, it does affect him to some degree. Otherwise, he wouldn't be spending the time he's spending engaging in all of this conversation. So what do you think the puzzle pieces look like at heavyweight? What would be your ideal landscape? What about Francis? Like, how do we make this thing make sense? Because it could be one of the best divisions in the sport, and right now it's the worst.
Right, absolutely. And everybody knows that the heavyweight division is it garners the most attention, and it should. But recently it has kind of been in a bit of a lull. The reason people love the heavyweight fights, and this goes back all the way to the boxing days, is because the consequences are so dire, right?
Yep.
You zig when you're supposed to zag one time against Derek Lewis, and you're waking up at the hospital, right?
Yep.
Same thing goes with pretty much all those guys. You don't make a mistake. At flyweight, we can see guys make mistakes and even take, 10, 15 shots unwarranted right to the head, and they're still going to make it to the decision. You don't often see that at heavyweight.
You will never see Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval at heavyweight.
Right, with like 800 significant strikes landed or something.
Both guys would be dead if that was heavyweight.
Exactly. We probably wouldn't even want to watch that. But yeah, so I think that heavyweight really does, it felt like it was getting injected with some new life, right? When we had Alex Pereira, who people thought was going to beat Ankalaev and move up for this triple champ thing. Jon Jones, who took a few years but made good on his promise that he was moving to heavyweight, went up and fought Cyril Gane. We're like, okay, we've got some guys, right? Like, we might have lost Cyril Gane as a legitimate contender, but we got Jon Jones. That's okay. And we've got Tom Aspinall, who is a prime, even a young for his division, monster, who's got in several fights like less than 10 minutes of cage time. So he's giving the fans the knockouts they want to see, the high energy,
the submissions.
The submissions. He's great on the microphone. Tom Aspinall, for all intents and purposes, is the guy we should be attaching the cart to, because he's great on the mic. He looks good. He has the knockout style. And most importantly, he's a heavyweight. I really think that once you can pull guys, when Dana goes to ESPN and they bring some fighters out there, it's a little weird when the guy asking the questions is a foot taller than the guy answering the questions, who's the toughest guy in the world or whatever, right? When you bring Francis Ngannou or Jon Jones or any of these heavyweights in, you can
these guys are massive.
You feel the presence, right? Yeah. So that's the same thing that we're dealing with. And I think Jon Jones, this might sound a little crazy, but Jon Jones is trolling us right now. And even though people are unsure if he's ever going to come back, I just want to make sure everybody knows Jon Jones is coming back.
Yes.
Jon Jones is 100% making a return. He's making good on this fight with Tom Aspinall. I believe it will be Tom, because the only reason I say it's Tom is because I don't think Tom loses to anybody
before the Jon fight,
unless it's potentially Jon. So I don't think he's getting him out of the way. What I think Jon is doing is hoping that we can see a couple more fights out of Tom. Maybe we'll see him get into a second round or a third round, right? Maybe even go into a championship fight and get drug out into the decision. Jon has come out on podcasts. We've heard him many times. And apparently from the gym stories, he is a monster when it comes to studying his opponents, when it comes to watching film. Maybe it has something to do with his brothers who are NFL players and they have access to, they've been watching film since long before, the MMA was even a sport. So who knows? There's maybe no crossover, but Jon Jones has a deep understanding of every opponent that he gets in the cage with. And I feel maybe the reason, it could be because he's enjoying his life. It could be because he's got things going on in the judicial system out in New Mexico. Whatever it is, Jon Jones decided it would be better to stay in the people's minds, not in the cage, but online. Let me just be in their face. Let me cause a little bit of controversy. Let me see what's going on, build up a little momentum. But I'm not fighting right now. I'm coming back, but I need to see some more work out of this guy and also need to let some of this dust settle. It's a very top-heavy division, and that's why Tom Aspinall almost feels like he's in no man's land. He's sitting up there. We've got a prime guy who is a potential superstar, and even if Jon Jones goes, guys, I'm retired, I'm done, I'm never coming back, that doesn't help Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is in trouble. He's in the same position Islam Makhachev was just in, where he's getting no credit for winning at 155. If Tom Aspinall goes out there and beats Jailton Almeida, and then they make a rematch with Curtis Blades, and he beats him, and he fights Derek Lewis, Cyril, he's going to get no credit for that. If he beats Jon Jones, now we're talking about something different. He can beat Jon Jones and then go on a 5-fight tear, and he's the greatest heavyweight of all time, no questions asked. The only other caveat would be we have to inject somebody else from outside. Like you're saying, Francis Ngannou has basically lit his MMA career on fire. He thought he was a boxer. He got lucky. He made it pretty damn far with Tyson Fury and didn't get his hand raised, but won in the public's eye. And then he went out there and fought another boxer and realized, okay, this is a whole different thing. But at the same time, PFL doesn't have anybody for him to fight. So he's sort of like involuntarily retired, right? He doesn't have anywhere to go. And sometimes you got to come back with your tail tucked between your legs and ask for a handout. And I think that Francis Ngannou is going to realize his relevancy is going to diminish almost instantly if this heavyweight division moves on without even considering him. So I don't know how that happens. Dana White seems like one of those guys where once you burn him, you're not coming back into the safe group. You're not in his circle anymore, as Jack Fokker or whatever his name would say. But
that's a good Meet the Fockers reference. There you go.
Yeah,
the circle of trust.
Jack Burns.
Jack Burns. Yeah.
So I just think that there's the division's so top heavy. We need Tom Aspinall to fight a couple more people or one more person, so Jon can get a little more footage to study, and then I think you get that fight. I honestly think you get it. And now that UFC's talking about the 250 anniversary of the America, we're doing a fight at the White House. It's going to be this insane event, hopefully break some records. You need it to be a star-studded event. You've got Jon Jones asking to be on it. You got Conor McGregor asking to be on it. You've even got Andrew.
Connor said he's going to be the president of Ireland by the time it takes place. So
he's going to have it. Yeah,
it's going to be a hell of a night if that all happens.
Right, 2 different jobs: run the office and then fight somebody in the UFC. That's a difficult order, but no, I think that Jon Jones coming back in 2026 is something we should be expecting. And I honestly think that even if Tom Aspinall goes out and wins 2 or 3 more fights, the want and the desire to see him fight Jon Jones is only going to continue to go up.
Yeah, and well, the big question for Conor, and this isn't a video about Conor, but the overarching question for Conor is, by this time next year, would it be more suitable for Conor to fight perhaps another world leader if he's the president, right, competitive wise, or actually fight somebody who's in the UFC? Because Conor, he has not been doing this for quite some time. And honestly, I think he would get cleaned by almost anybody that is a name that you would want to see him paired into a cage with. But that's...
Did you see, real quick, I'll just say, did you see who AI made a picture of him with? And he posted the picture?
Who's him that?
And Michael Chandler standing in front of the White House with Dana and Donald Trump. So I think that is still the fight he wants. We're talking about a 2-5 Michael Chandler, but he's still got a little bit of a steam in the division. And even though Conor McGregor doesn't go up in the ranks very much, beating Michael Chandler, that is a winnable fight. Now, the issue is we're doing this on American soil in front of the White House. Is Iron Michael Chandler really going to let the brash Irishman come to his front lawn, the White House front lawn, and beat him up? who knows? But I think that is another interesting point about the Conor side.
Yeah, and back to heavyweight.
Yeah.
Before we finish up this conversation, guys, there's one thing that we noticed that's quite concerning, and that is that most of you that watch our videos are actually not subscribed to the channel.
What's up with that?
Guys, you helped us get to 10K, and we thank you so much for that. We are now on a mission to 15,000 subs. We're looking to do it within the next 3 months, and we're less than 2,000 away. Your subscription to this channel helps us out tremendously and allows us to keep putting out the best content that we can for y'all. Back to the conversation.
Thank you.
Everybody's talking about Cyril Gane challenging Tom Aspinall for the heavyweight title. I like Cyril Gane, and I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer on this one, but I literally could not care less about that fight.
Right.
That fight has nothing on it. I think we all know how it's going to go. Tom Aspinall has a way bigger skill set. He's got more power. He's got the grappling that Cyril doesn't have. He's huge. Like he's
even faster too,
and he's faster. That's a terrible matchup for Gane.
Right.
And that's coming from somebody who likes to watch Gane fight. I'm not a Gane hater. I like Cyril Gane.
Right.
But here's what I think the UFC should do. If I'm matchmaking, this is what I'm trying to do. Jon Jones was ready to sign on the dotted line to fight Francis.
Right.
He sees, and Jon always talks about, what have you done? I'm not putting my legacy on the line for somebody who hasn't done anything.
Right.
He deemed Francis as the guy who had done enough in heavyweight to fight him.
Right.
If you make somehow Tom versus Francis, that's a huge heavyweight fight.
Yes.
You let bygones be bygones. You put what happened in the past, and you bring Francis back.
Right.
He already said he's open to come back. The PFL is all but folded.
For sure.
He's not boxing again. He got tuned the hell up by Anthony Joshua. Like, that experiment is over.
Yep.
So Francis versus Tom is the fight that Jon wants to see to fight the winner. Because if Francis wins, Francis all along was the guy that Jon said, that guy's got the accolades that I want to take.
Right.
He's the best heavyweight right now. I want to beat him. Tom, he says, doesn't have the accolades.
Right.
But you would no longer be able to make that argument if he beat Francis.
True.
Because he beat the guy that you said was the guy.
Right.
So if I'm the UFC, at all costs, I'm trying to make Francis Ngannou versus Tom Aspinall.
Okay.
And quite honestly, Tom Aspinall deserves that.
Yeah,
Tom Aspinall has been screwed royally for the last year and a half. Like, Cyril Gane? Like after screwing, like, the guy's been the interim champion for what, 500-600 days?
Yeah.
And you're going to give him Cyril Gane?
Or Jailton Almeida?
Like, give me a break. Or, Alex Pereira. But do you really want to do that with Pereira? Like, Pereira's still probably, Ilya's probably eclipsed him now, but Pereira's number 2 as far as star power in the sport goes right now. Do you really want to do that to Pereira? Because I don't think any of us, even a massive Pereira fan, think that he's got much of a chance in that.
Certainly not.
I would like to see Francis versus Tom and Jon fight the winner of that fight.
That'd be a great fight.
That, to me, is the heavyweight round robin that would inject the energy into the division that we are so craving right now.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that Francis is a guy who you would put his name in the conversation with either one of those guys, and he's just out on the sideline in somewhat of the prime of his career. Now, Francis is in his late 30s, but he's also a heavyweight.
Yeah.
Heavyweight prime runs till almost 40. So there's still time to do this. And for Jon, too, by the way, because Jon's pushing that 40 number as well. There's time to do it, but there's not a whole hell of a lot of time. Like, we need to make this thing right. We need to get Francis back in the UFC. We need to put him against Tom, and we need to let Jon fight the winner.
I agree. And then we got to pray and hope that we've got some new contenders emerging, right?
Yeah.
We were hearing about Gable Steveson trying to come from the wrestling world over to MMA. I think he'd be a good heavyweight, and who knows if he would end up, being a good fighter. But we got to get somebody, because once our days are numbered on Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou. Tom's still got plenty of time left, but if he doesn't have good opposition, what's the point in sticking around? Obviously, he can line his pockets with easy title fights, and the way the landscape of the heavyweight division looks right now, he'd be able to line his pockets pretty easily and make some serious history. He could win 7-8
fights in a row easily. There is nobody besides Francis and Jon that could give Tom a challenge.
Right.
Period. There's
legitimately.
Not.
And Derek is a teammate and a friend of mine. So Derek Lewis is somebody I'll always try to throw in. But we're almost at a point where if you take you take Francis, Alex Pereira, Jon Jones out, you look at the next guys in the rankings before you get to Derek Lewis in the rankings, They don't bring any numbers in. They don't do any, and they all honestly don't pose as much of a threat to Tom as the single shot knockout power. Now I get that Derek Lewis is not at the skill level to be fighting Tom Aspinall. I understand, but this is how bare the UFC's heavyweight division is. We're talking about a guy who's about 40 years old, and he's probably one of the only legitimate tests you have for Tom if you don't get Francis, Alex Pereira, or Jon Jones in there. And again, I'm with you on the Alex Pereira thing. Even before the Ankalaev fight, which I thought he could potentially win, I didn't like the idea of him fighting Jon Jones just because we know how that would go. It's not good. And I can't imagine a fight between Pereira and Tom Aspinall being any different because they've both got such good grappling, and they didn't even really need the blueprint to see how to beat him on the feet from Ankalaev. But they've got a good understanding now. And even though Pereira is this polarizing figure, hits like a Mack truck, there are ways to beat him. And a guy that's in a UFC title fight or held to gold or is a current champion is going to be able to find that.
I think that's well said. So I think we both agree Francis Ngannou needs to come back, and that's gonna be the kickstart to all of this,
right?
Because Jon wants to see Tom fight. Tom wants a big fight and quite honestly deserves a big fight. The UFC needs to put on a big heavyweight title fight.
For sure.
That solves all the problems.
Right. Yeah. The only other thing I can think about is we've got to wait around for another crop of fighters to come. But again, we're talking about waiting for promotional. We're waiting for the first 4 fights and their highlight reels in the UFC, their legitimate run in an actual ranked UFC division. That's what we have to wait for. Right now, we have nobody even in our sights. Even on the regional scene, if you pay close attention to that, you're not really finding anybody that's sticking out like, oh man, this guy's going to be a problem in 3 years. So Tom Aspinall's in this rough situation where he needs to hurry up and get these hardest fights booked and signed and out of the way. And then it's easy street for him. I think he could potentially give the belt back when he's done fighting. If he gets Jon, Francis, Pereira, or any of those sort of collectively in out of his way, then he can just ride off and fight when he wants to twice a year, clean up a heavyweight that doesn't have a big name and move on. But I really do think time is of the essence. Dana White understands that the heavyweight division is still the most important division the UFC has, and they've got a prime guy who could be a star in Tom Aspinall. You've got to do what you have to do to make these fights for him. And the only thing you can do is play the game with Jon Jones and let him do what he's going to do and hope to God that he comes back. And then you got to make good with Francis Ngannou, because we can't have somebody walking the earth that is potentially a better fighter and a better champion than all the guys on your roster. We saw this happen with Israel Adesanya. He cleared out the entire division. The UFC goes, we got to find somebody. Somebody needs to test this guy. And they go, hey, there's some dude in Brazil drinking beers at a bar, but he beat him twice in kickboxing. Find him. Boom. Fast track Alex Pereira. These are the types of situations that we like in the storylines. So I think Dana White understands that. He knows how to get these things done. And even though Francis burned him and he doesn't like giving people second chances like that, I think he'd be willing to at least negotiate.
Agreed.